She thought she was being paranoid, until she found out her stolen purse was linked to a human trafficking ring. Photos of her and her friends, their addresses and schedules were all meticulously organized by strangers. This wasn't just theft. It was surveillance for something far darker. It started as an ordinary day for M. She ran errands like usual, leaving her purse in the car for just a few minutes. When she returned, it was gone. At first, she assumed it was a petty theft. Cancel the cards, replace the IDs, move on. Then the police called. They had recovered her purse from a suspected human trafficker. Inside, everything was neatly arranged, not stolen at random, but studied. Her life had been cataloged for something far worse. M had just finished grocery shopping when it happened. She loaded her bags into the back seat of her car, placing her purse on the passenger seat while she returned the cart to the corral. She was only turned away for maybe 30 seconds. When she got back to the car, the purse was gone. At first, she figured it was just a random theft, annoying but not uncommon in the area. She canceled her credit cards right away and started the process of replacing her driver's license, but she didn't think much deeper about it. 3 days later, her phone rang with an unknown number. It was the police. They said they'd recovered her purse but needed her to come down to the station. When she got there, the officer's tone was serious. They had found her belongings in the possession of someone connected to human trafficking operations. That was when they showed her the contents of her own purse spread out on a table. Everything had been carefully organized, but not the way she kept it. Her university ID was sorted next to a sticky note with her class schedule written in unfamiliar handwriting. Photos of her with friends had been removed from her wallet and paper-clipped together, with names and locations scribbled in the margins. The police pointed out how her gym membership card had been placed on top of a printed map showing the route between her apartment and the campus recreation center. They'd even found a small notebook documenting her usual walking patterns over multiple days. M realized then that whoever took her purse wasn't just after quick cash. They'd been studying her. The missing items weren't random. They'd specifically targeted the things that revealed her daily routine. The officer told her traffickers often did this to identify the easiest times and places to approach someone without drawing attention. Suddenly, every glance she'd dismissed as paranoia over the past month took on new meaning. She called her boyfriend immediately. He was stationed at a nearby military base, and his reaction made her stomach drop. He recognized this pattern from training about organized crime tactics. He told her not to go home yet, to meet him at a public coffee shop they never visited. When she got there, he was already checking the exits. That night, the police confirmed her worst fear. This wasn't some general profiling attempt. M was being specifically watched. Investigators found recent photos in the trafficker's phone showing her entering her apartment building alone at night. Another showed her waiting at a bus stop near campus. The most chilling was a blurry shot taken through what looked like her bedroom window. She'd always written off noises outside as squirrels or raccoons. Now she had to face the truth. Someone had been right there, inches from where she slept. Her boyfriend took charge of the situation in a way that should have been comforting, but only made her more afraid. He changed all their plans instantly. No more predictable routes, no more late-night library sessions. He installed security cameras facing every window of her apartment while barely speaking, his jaw clenched the whole time. That's when M understood. The real danger wasn't just the surveillance. It was how much they already knew about her, before she even knew they existed. The police officer warned her this group tended to strike when victims were most isolated. With her final exams coming up, M had been keeping erratic hours, walking alone at night between campus and her apartment. She'd posted Instagram stories tagging locations and complaining about study sessions running late. The pieces came together sickeningly fast. She'd basically handed them a schedule of her vulnerabilities. Her boyfriend insisted she pack a bag that night. They stayed at his base housing for a week while the police tried tracking down the traffickers. But after 5 days with no leads, the officers admitted they were stuck. Without an actual abduction attempt, there wasn't enough evidence for arrests. Em had to return to her apartment knowing they'd likely still been watching the whole time. When Em and her boyfriend went through the recovered items with police, the reality hit harder than expected. The contents of her purse had been rearranged into something resembling an investigator's case file. Her gym membership card was paper-clipped to a list of dates and times, all corresponding to her regular workouts. Whoever put this together had tracked her patterns for at least 3 weeks. They knew she always went swimming on Tuesdays and Thursdays after her 3 p.m. class. They had even highlighted the locker room's side exit on a photocopied floor plan of the rec center. Her student ID was tucked inside a folded campus map, with red lines marking 3 different walking routes between her apartment and the biology building. The most unsettling part was a handwritten note listing her professor's office hours alongside phrases like "usually alone" and "no cameras." Someone had followed her long enough to know she sometimes visited professors after hours. The police said this level of detail suggested multiple people had been watching her, not just the woman who was caught with her purse. Photos from her wallet were sorted into a separate Ziploc bag. Each snapshot of her with friends had notes scribbled in blue pen, names she didn't recognize labeling people as close contact or potential leverage. One picture showed Em laughing at a backyard barbecue last summer. A sticky note attached read, "Parents' house? Check county records." Her boyfriend went pale when he saw that. His military training kicked in instantly, pointing out how traffickers often research family homes as secondary locations. The police confirmed one of the worst findings. Em's work schedule from the campus dining hall had been photocopied, with the closing shifts circled every time she was scheduled alone in the dish room. That explained why she'd been hearing footsteps in the alley behind the kitchen lately. She thought it was raccoons knocking over trash cans, but now she wondered if someone had been timing the delivery truck's noise to mask their approach. Her boyfriend made her immediately remove all spare keys, including the magnetic box under her car bumper. He changed their grocery day from Sundays to random weeknights and insisted they use different checkout lanes each time. They stopped using her apartment's parking lot entirely, leaving the car at a 24-hour laundromat 3 blocks away instead. The police warned that traffickers often look for hesitation, anything to make a victim freeze long enough to be grabbed. So he drilled her on walking with keys between her knuckles and texting him license plates of any car that passed them twice. For 2 weeks, they thought the precautions were working. Until Em's co-worker mentioned a woman lingering outside the dining hall, asking about her specifically. The description matched the suspected trafficker in custody. Police said it was likely an associate checking if Em and her boyfriend had really stopped their routines. That night, they found fresh shoe prints in the flower bed beneath her bedroom window. Boots, not sneakers, sunk deep like someone had stood there a while. The hardest part was realizing they couldn't rely solely on law enforcement. After the initial arrest, the case stalled. Without evidence of an actual abduction attempt, detectives said their hands were tied. Em's boyfriend organized military buddies to rotate shifts watching her apartment till dawn, but they all knew it wasn't sustainable. She started noticing things, the neighbor's security light flickering oddly, her phone battery draining faster than usual, and couldn't tell if it meant anything, or if she was just exhausted. Her boyfriend installed a second lock on her bedroom door and rigged fishing line with empty cans around potential entry points. It felt ridiculous until 3 a.m. one night, when the cans clattered downstairs. By the time police arrived, there was only a snapped twig on the back porch and a faint smell of cigarettes. No fingerprints, no video footage. Just another sleepless night spent double-checking window latches. The breaking point came when Em recognized a dark SUV idling near her bus stop. same one she'd seen outside the gym last week. She called 911 while pretending to tie her shoe, but the dispatcher said officers couldn't respond to a hunch. By the time her boyfriend arrived, the SUV was gone, but someone had left one of her own hair ties dangling from the bus bench, the same neon green one she'd lost from her gym bag 2 days prior. That's when they knew. The traffickers weren't just watching anymore. They were leaving proof they could get close whenever they wanted. Em moved dorm rooms the next day, then left campus entirely when another student reported seeing strangers near her new building. The police took a report but admitted they were understaffed for surveillance cases. Her boyfriend started sleeping with a knife under his pillow, but the strain wore them both down. Em knew extra precautions wouldn't erase the core issue. These people had studied her life closely enough to predict moves she hadn't even made yet. The worst part was never knowing if they'd truly given up or just moved on to someone less guarded. Em's boyfriend reacted within minutes of hearing what the police found in her purse. His military training took over completely. He didn't waste time asking how this could happen. He just started making lists. First came the immediate changes. No more walking alone after dark. No more posting locations online. No using the same route twice in a row. He showed her how to map 3 different ways to get everywhere, rotating them at random. If she normally turned left onto Maple Street after class, he made her go right onto Elm instead, even if it added 10 minutes to her walk. They went straight to a hardware store that night. He bought motion sensor lights for her apartment's exterior and a steel bar for the sliding glass door. While she called campus security to report the situation, he installed cameras facing the parking lot and front walkway. The cameras were cheap, but he positioned them at odd angles most people wouldn't think to check for. He told her most criminals would spot a camera mounted straight on, but miss one tilted slightly downward behind a rain gutter. The next morning, he walked her through basic surveillance detection. They sat in her car for an hour watching traffic on her street. He pointed out how most delivery drivers glance at house numbers but keep moving, while someone casing the area might slow down just a bit too long. He taught her to notice when the same vehicle passed twice in a short time frame, especially with different drivers. They practiced identifying exits in every building she frequented, not just main doors, but staff hallways and emergency stairwells. But the traffickers didn't back off just because she was being careful. 2 days after installing the cameras, Em spotted a gray sedan parked across from her apartment 3 mornings in a row. Different people sat inside each time. Once an older woman knitting, then a man in sunglasses tapping his steering wheel to music. The third time, it was a teenager who looked like any college student, except he kept glancing at his phone screen instead of the building he pretended to wait outside. Her boyfriend arranged for his military friends to take shifts, watching her apartment from their own cars. They logged license plates and took photos of suspicious vehicles, but the moment they approached one, it would drive off too fast to follow. Late one night, Em's phone buzzed with an unknown caller ID. When she answered, there was just breathing before the line went dead. Her boyfriend checked her phone settings and found her number had been forwarded to some burner email account she didn't recognize. He started sleeping with a hunting knife under his pillow and a baseball bat propped beside the bed. They developed code words for texts. If she messaged, "Did you feed the cat?" it meant she felt watched. He kept emergency cash hidden in her shoes in case someone snatched her bag again. The stress wore on them both. Em jumped at every knock on the door, while her boyfriend scanned crowds like he was still deployed in a war zone. One afternoon, her boyfriend noticed fresh cigarette butts near their garbage cans. Em didn't smoke, and neither did her neighbors. That night, motion sensors triggered 3 times between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., but the cameras only caught a blurry shadow moving past the edge of the frame. When police came to check, they found footprints leading from the tree line to just below Em's bedroom window before doubling back. The boyfriend's military buddies helped rig an early warning system. Fishing lines strung across possible approach routes with tin cans that'd rattle if disturbed. Twice in 1 week, the cans clattered in the middle of the night. Both times, by the time anyone reacted, there was no one there. Just a lingering smell of smoke and flattened grass where someone had stood watching. M's boyfriend started escorting her everywhere, even to classes. He taught her how to use her keys as a weapon, how to break holds, where to strike if someone grabbed her. But the more precautions they took, the bolder the traffickers seemed to get. A man matching the description of one suspect started showing up at her workplace, ordering coffee but never drinking it. Another time, M found her car door slightly ajar, though nothing inside seemed disturbed. The final straw came when her boyfriend's commander denied his request for extended leave, citing operational needs. He couldn't stay indefinitely, and neither could his friends. They set up neighborhood watch alerts and gave M's landlord explicit instructions about repair personnel. But everyone knew these were temporary measures. M started sleeping with all the lights on, her phone set to record audio all night. Every morning she'd check the footage, sometimes hearing faint footsteps no one could explain. Her boyfriend tried reporting each incident, but without concrete evidence, the police just filed more reports that went nowhere. One detective admitted off-record that trafficking rings often operated this way, testing boundaries until either the victim's support system crumbled or they found an opening. The weight of that realization changed something between them. No matter how many precautions they took, they couldn't stay vigilant forever, and the people watching M seemed willing to wait however long it took. M came home from work around 9 p.m. that night, earlier than usual because her boyfriend had insisted she cut back on closing shifts. She noticed the van immediately. An older white panel van with tinted windows parked across the street near a fire hydrant. What bothered her wasn't just that it was there, but that she'd seen it 3 times in the past week. Once near her gym, another time idling outside the grocery store. This was the first time it had shown up at her apartment. She called her boyfriend the second she got inside, locking the deadbolt behind her. He was at the base but told her to check all the windows and doors while he stayed on the line. That's when she saw the bushes rustle near the side of the house. At first she thought it might be a stray cat, but then she spotted a dark shape crouched low. Someone was moving along the exterior wall toward her bedroom window. Her boyfriend told her to get the knife from under the couch and stay quiet. He was already in his car driving over, but it would take 12 minutes. M crouched by the front door, listening to the sound of footsteps circling the house. The van's engine was still running. She could hear it through the walls. Then came a soft scraping noise at the back door, like someone testing the knob. She texted her boyfriend updates while keeping an eye on the security camera feed. The angle wasn't great, but she could see the van's side door slide open slightly. A moment later, 2 figures moved quickly toward her backyard. One stayed by the van while the other approached the house. Her phone showed her boyfriend was still 7 minutes away. The motion sensor light in the backyard flicked on suddenly. Through the kitchen window, M saw a man in a dark hoodie freeze mid-step near her patio. He didn't run, just stood there staring at the light like he was deciding whether to keep going. Then he turned and signaled to the van. That's when she heard the back door handle jiggle again, harder this time. Her boyfriend called the police while driving, but they said they'd send a patrol car when one became available. M was about to call 911 herself when headlights swept across the living room. Her boyfriend's truck skidded into the driveway. The moment his door slammed, the figures bolted. The van peeled away before he could get the license plate. They found footprints under every window. Near the back porch was a dropped cigarette, same brand as the butts they'd found last week. The worst discovery came when police finally arrived 40 minutes later. A neighbor reported seeing the van parked crookedly a block away. Officers searched it and found rope, duct tape, and a faded student ID photo of M from her orientation packet she didn't even realize was missing. For the first time, there was physical evidence. The police took fingerprints and logged the items into evidence. But the van had stolen plates, and they couldn't tie it to the original suspect from the purse incident. The detective admitted this was likely an abduction attempt that got interrupted. M's hands wouldn't stop shaking even hours later. She kept staring at the photo of herself they'd found. It was from a campus newsletter article she'd forgotten about, proving they'd researched her beyond just the stolen purse contents. The boyfriend stayed over every night after that. They moved her bed away from the windows and put alarms on every door. But the real change was in how M moved through the world. She stopped trusting any parked cars, any strangers who seemed too interested in her routine. 3 days after the incident, a different van showed up near her workplace. She left through the back exit without telling anyone, walking 2 miles to a friend's house instead of going home. Her boyfriend's commanding officer finally approved a temporary housing transfer on base, but it took a week to process. During those days, they slept in shifts, one always awake to watch the security feeds. The night before the move, M woke to the sound of a car idling outside. Nothing showed up on camera, but in the morning, there were fresh tire marks in the gravel near their driveway, and another cigarette crushed near the mailbox. The police took another report, but said without video evidence, they couldn't do much. M packed her things that afternoon, taking only essentials. As she locked up the apartment, she noticed a small scratch mark on the door frame near the deadbolt. Thin and precise, like someone had tested the lock with a tool. It hadn't been there the day before. She took a picture and sent it to the detective, but didn't wait for a response. That evening, she moved on to base housing where guards checked every vehicle at the gate. For the first time in months, she slept through the night without jumping at every noise. But she knew it wasn't over. They had her information. They knew her patterns. She'd just made herself harder to reach. The real question was whether they'd keep trying or find an easier target. The van was spotted once more outside her old apartment a week later. A neighbor got a partial plate this time, but it came back as another stolen tag. Detectives told her the case was still active, but M knew what that meant. She was on her own now. The only comfort was that moving on to base housing gave her breathing room. Still, she checked every window lock twice before bed and carried pepper spray in her hand instead of her purse. You don't forget the sound of someone testing your back door in the dark. You don't unsee the supplies they brought to take you. After the close call with the van, M stopped sleeping through the night. She'd wake up at the smallest noises, a branch scraping the window, the hum of a car engine idling too long down the street. Her boyfriend started staying over every night. But even with him there, she'd find herself sitting up in bed at 3 a.m., listening to the silent house. They talked about moving to a new apartment, but the idea just made her more anxious. What if the traffickers followed? What if the new place had worse security? She started noticing patterns everywhere. A neighbor she didn't recognize walking their dog past her window 3 days in a row. A car that always seemed to be parked near her workplace, though never in the same spot twice. When she mentioned it to the police, they said without concrete evidence, they couldn't do anything. The case had gone cold. No arrests, no leads. The detective told her they wouldn't be returning her items from the purse because they were still evidence, but after that, updates stopped coming. Her boyfriend's military friends took turns sitting outside her apartment when he wasn't there. They'd escort her to and from work at night, watching the parking lots and alleys she used to walk through without thinking. It helped, but the constant vigilance wore on everyone. One afternoon, she broke down in the grocery store because a man in a hoodie kept glancing at her from the cereal aisle. It turned out he was just a stock employee restocking shelves. but she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. The little things piled up. She stopped using her usual coffee shops, changed gyms, even altered her route to class daily. Her boyfriend taught her to watch for subtle signs. Someone taking too long to tie their shoe near her. A person standing just at the edge of her peripheral vision in the campus library. She started carrying multiple forms of ID, switching between them randomly in case someone was tracking her through her student card. The worst part was the uncertainty. The traffickers had never truly gone away. They'd just stopped making obvious moves. Em found herself studying every stranger's hands, looking for signs they might grab her. She memorized escape routes in every building she entered, always noting where the back exits were. Her boyfriend suggested therapy, but the waiting list at the campus clinic was 6 weeks long. In the meantime, she just white-knuckled through each day, jumping at shadows. Things got tense with her boyfriend. He wanted her to move on to base housing permanently, but she worried that would make her look like a target, someone worth following. They argued about whether she should drop her night classes, whether she should quit her job at the dining hall. Every discussion circled back to the same unanswerable question: how much of her life was she willing to change because of them? She started having nightmares about the van. In them, she'd see it parked outside her window, but when she tried to scream, no sound came out. She'd wake up gasping, her hands shaking so badly she couldn't even hold a glass of water. One night, her boyfriend woke to find her standing at the bedroom window with a knife, convinced she'd seen movement in the bushes. There was nothing there, but she stayed awake until sunrise anyway. Months passed with no new incidents, but Em never relaxed. She stopped wearing earbuds in public so she could always hear footsteps behind her. She avoided crowds, certain that traffickers could snatch her in the chaos. Her boyfriend's deployment date loomed, and she realized soon she'd be facing this alone. The detective's words stuck in her head. The case was inactive now, and they couldn't disclose any information. Some days, she'd catch herself staring at women who looked like the suspected trafficker from her purse incident. Was that her in line at the pharmacy? Was that her car idling at the stoplight? She knew the odds were low, but after everything, she couldn't shake the paranoia. The worst part was knowing they'd never been caught. Every time she asked about the case, the detective gave the same response. Inactive investigation, no updates. She stopped calling eventually. Whatever closure she'd hoped for wasn't coming. Her boyfriend got transferred overseas 6 months later. The night before he left, they sat on her apartment floor with all the lights on, reviewing her safety plan one last time. He'd rigged extra locks on her windows, set up a discreet alarm system, even arranged for a friend to check in weekly. But as she watched his car pull away the next morning, she knew none of it would make her feel safe again. She still checks the locks 3 times before bed. She still scans parking lots before stepping out of her car. Some habits don't fade, not even years later. The terror of that time lingers, not as sharp, but always present, like a shadow she can't outrun. She tells herself it's just caution now, but deep down, she knows the truth. That kind of fear changes you, leaves marks that never fully heal. And the worst part is never knowing for sure if they're really gone. The months after the van incident passed without another direct confrontation, but Em never stopped looking over her shoulder. She kept the security cameras running 24/7 and slept with a baseball bat beside her bed. Simple things she used to enjoy, going out at night, taking long walks, became impossible. Her hands still shook every time she saw a white vehicle, even delivery vans with company logos. She changed her work schedule completely, switching from evening shifts at the campus dining hall to a daytime job at a bookstore across town. The pay was worse, but the shop had security guards and better lighting in the parking lot. Her relationship with her boyfriend started fraying under the constant stress. They argued about small things, whether she should keep more cash hidden in the apartment, whether it was safe to visit friends. He wanted her to move on to base permanently, but campus was already giving her trouble about the military friends constantly checking in on her. Somehow the worst fights were about normal things, like when she freaked out because he left the front door unlocked to take out the trash. He'd say she was being paranoid, and she'd snap back that he didn't understand how it felt to know someone had planned to take her. Then his orders came through. He was being stationed overseas for at least a year. The night before he left, they sat on her bed while he showed her how to reset the security system and check for tampering on the window locks. He made her promise to text him every time she got home, to vary her routes, to never go anywhere without letting someone know. It should have been comforting, but all she could think was that she was about to be alone in the apartment where they'd tried to take her. The first week without him was the worst. She barely slept, jumping at every car alarm and dog bark. She called the police twice about a man lingering near her complex's mailboxes, but by the time patrols arrived, he was gone. Eventually, she gave in and made an appointment at the campus counseling center. The therapist diagnosed her with PTSD and suggested grounding techniques, but Em kept forgetting to do them when she actually panicked. Some days, just walking from her car to the bookstore entrance felt like a military operation. Scanning the lot, noting exits, gripping her keys between her fingers. The detective assigned to her case stopped returning her calls around month 3. When she finally went to the station in person, an officer told her the file was inactive due to lack of leads. They still had her purse and the items found in the van tagged as evidence, but unless the suspects resurfaced, nothing would happen. She asked if they'd at least keep an eye on her old apartment in case someone came back, but the officer just gave her a pamphlet about personal safety. Most of her friends didn't get why she couldn't just move on. They'd say things like, "Isn't it good nothing happened?" Or, "You're safe now, right?" She started avoiding social gatherings because explaining the constant vigilance was exhausting. Even her therapist seemed impatient when Em admitted she still checked all the window locks 3 times before bed. The bookstore job helped somewhat. The routine was mindless, and the security cameras were visible from every aisle. But she caught herself memorizing customers' faces, especially the ones who came in too often without buying anything. Once, she had to go to the back room and breathe into a paper bag because a man in a hoodie kept staring at her from the mystery section. He turned out to be a regular customer, but she switched shifts with a coworker for the rest of the week, just in case. By the 6-month mark, she'd settled into a strange rhythm, functioning but never relaxed. She stopped telling people about the trafficking scare because their reactions made her feel crazy. The police never contacted her about the case again. Sometimes she'd drive by her old apartment complex just to see if the van was there, but she never stayed long enough to find out. She kept seeing the same therapist, who encouraged her to focus on manageable goals instead of waiting for closure. So she started small, walking to the mailbox without checking over her shoulder, going to a movie with a friend in daylight hours. The fear didn't go away, but after a while, she got better at ignoring it. Her boyfriend video called when he could, but the time difference made it hard. They stopped talking about the trafficking after a while. It was too draining to explain how she felt over a pixelated screen. Sometimes he'd ask if she still had the baseball bat by the bed, and she'd lie and say no. The worst part wasn't the fear itself, but the isolation. No one understood why she couldn't just forget the whole thing. The police closed the case. Her friends moved on. Even her therapist seemed to think she should be over it by now. But every time she saw a white van or heard footsteps behind her at night, her body reacted before her brain could remind her the threat was probably gone. She still Googled human trafficking arrests in her state sometimes, looking for familiar faces. She never found any. Somewhere out there, the people who'd studied her routines and waited outside her job were still free. That knowledge settled in her chest like a stone, making it hard to breathe on certain nights. The therapist called it hypervigilance, but to Em, it just felt like survival. Maybe one day she wouldn't check the locks 3 times before bed. But not yet. Not for a long time. Em shares her story now whenever she gets the chance. Campus safety seminars, women's groups, even local coffee shop meetups. She doesn't care if it makes people uncomfortable. After everything that happened, she wants everyone to know how fast something normal can turn dangerous. At first, she struggled to talk about it without crying, but now she goes through the details methodically. The stolen purse wasn't random. The van wasn't coincidence. She shows photos of the organized contents police recovered, her gym schedule highlighted, her routes mapped out. People always look shocked when they see proof this happens in their own neighborhoods. She warns everyone about purses left in cars. Hers was only unattended for 30 seconds, but that was enough. Now she keeps hers strapped crossbody at all times, zippers facing forward where she can see them. She teaches friends to tuck wallets into jacket pockets instead of bags when walking alone. It's small things like noticing which way a purse strap faces. She points out how many women drape them over shoulders where they can be easily grabbed. Em won't even leave sunglasses visible in her car anymore. She saw how fast they went through her glove compartment after taking her purse. Anything left in a vehicle becomes information. Gym membership cards, receipts with home addresses, spare keys. She makes it a habit now to scan her car's interior before walking away, checking for anything that could reveal her routines. Social media was another weak point she didn't realize until after. The traffickers knew where she'd be because she'd posted about study sessions running late, checked in at coffee shops, tagged locations with friends. Now she waits to post anything until she's left the location. She deleted apps that automatically shared her location and stopped tagging friends in photos without asking first. Changing routines became second nature after what she went through. She takes different routes to work each day, sometimes walking an extra block just to avoid patterns. If she normally stops for coffee at 8 a.m., she'll skip some days or go earlier. The goal isn't to be paranoid, just unpredictable. She points out how many people do the same things at the same times every day without realizing it. Her biggest advice is to trust gut feelings. She remembers the nagging suspicion she had about the gray sedan outside her apartment before the van incident. At the time, she brushed it off as paranoia. Now she tells people if something feels off, it probably is. She'd rather be wrong and cautious than ignore warning signs again. The police did what they could, but she learned firsthand they can't be everywhere. Response times lagged, cases went cold, and patrol cars weren't watching her apartment 24/7. She doesn't blame them. There were just too many variables. That's why she focuses on prevention now, instead of relying solely on intervention. Traffickers look for easy marks, people distracted by phones, predictable routines, visible belongings. Em knows they passed over others to target her because of small oversights. She teaches self-defense classes now, and always emphasizes situational awareness over fighting skills. Simply noticing your surroundings makes you a harder target. Everything about how she moves through the world changed. She double-checks locks without thinking, keeps car doors locked while driving, scans parking lots before getting out. Some friends say she seems jumpy, but she knows the cost of not paying attention. Most of all, she wants her story to help others avoid what she went through. It's why she keeps sharing even when it's uncomfortable. Sometimes after talks, people come up privately to tell her similar experiences. Strange cars following them, items going missing, eerie phone calls. Many never reported it because they weren't sure. M tells them they were right to be wary. She still keeps photos of the purse contents police showed her. Not to scare people, but to prove this happens in ordinary places, to ordinary people. It's not Hollywood abduction scenes. It's missed warning signs and small vulnerabilities adding up. The last thing she does in every talk is pass out a slip of paper with emergency contacts written on it. She makes people promise to program the numbers into their phones right then. Too many assume it won't happen to me until it does. She knows better now. Her boyfriend's overseas deployment ended, but they didn't get back together. The stress changed them both too much. Sometimes he'll text to check if she's still giving safety talks. She always says yes. It's the one good thing that came from all of it. M's story isn't unusual. Every year, thousands of people vanish just like she almost did. Traffickers don't wear masks or lurk in dark alleys. They blend in. They sit in normal cars outside grocery stores. They work normal jobs as delivery drivers or construction workers. They target people who seem vulnerable. Someone walking alone with earbuds in, a student posting their late-night study sessions online, a woman leaving her purse visible in a car. It's not about brute force. It's about finding the right moment when no one's paying attention. The numbers are worse than most people realize. In the US alone, over 500,000 people go missing every year. Many are never found. Some turn up years later, telling stories no one believes. Others just disappear. No body, no ransom note, nothing. Traffickers know how to make people vanish without a trace. They change victims' appearances, move them across state lines, even forge new IDs. By the time anyone realizes something's wrong, it's often too late. Law enforcement tries, but they're dealing with an impossible task. Most departments don't have specialized trafficking units. Cases get buried under stacks of more urgent crimes. Even when they do investigate, traffickers stay steps ahead. Burner phones, encrypted apps, fake license plates. M's case went cold because the van had stolen tags. The woman caught with her purse was just a small player in a much bigger operation. Without more evidence, police hands were tied. The system fails victims more often than it helps. Too many stories end like M's. No arrests, no justice, just a warning to be more careful. Traffickers exploit every gap in the system. They target people who won't be missed right away. College students away from home, immigrants without family nearby, people with unstable living situations. By the time someone files a missing persons report, the trail is already cold. Public awareness helps, but it's not enough. People need concrete ways to protect themselves and others. Simple things like noticing who's lingering near a bus stop or reporting cars that circle a neighborhood too often can make a difference. M shares her story because she wants people to understand how trafficking really works. Not Hollywood kidnappings with black vans and chloroform, but calculated grooming through stolen information and surveillance. Change happens too slowly. Laws take years to pass, and traffickers adapt faster. New apps make it easier to sell people anonymously online. Social media gives predators access to potential victims' daily routines. Meanwhile, survivors struggle to get help. Shelters are full. Therapy waiting lists are months long. And many programs only accept victims who cooperate with police, which isn't always possible. Community support matters more than people think. M's boyfriend and his military friends buying time to watch her apartment made a difference. Neighbors noticing the van outside her house helped. But not everyone has that kind of network. Traffickers prey on isolation, the student who eats lunch alone, the single mom working night shifts, the new employee nobody knows well. Checking in on people who seem disconnected might be the simplest way to prevent these crimes. The hardest truth is that trafficking doesn't just happen somewhere else. It happens in suburbs with good school districts. It happens near busy shopping centers and college campuses. The people doing this aren't monsters lurking in shadows. They're everyday faces who know how to hide in plain sight. They count on no one suspecting the guy fixing your internet or the woman chatting with you at the laundromat. Em still thinks about the ones who got away, the traffickers who almost took her. They're still out there, maybe targeting someone else right now. The police file's still open, but no one's actively working it. That's the reality most families of missing persons face. A system stretched too thin to give them answers. Survivors who escape often end up advocating for themselves because so few resources exist. Stories like M's aren't meant to scare people into locking themselves inside. They're meant to show how being aware of small details, license plates, patterns of behavior, odd social media messages, can make someone a harder target. Traffickers don't waste time on people who notice things. They move on to easier prey. That's why sharing these stories matters. It's not about paranoia. It's about understanding how ordinary situations can turn dangerous and how paying attention might be the one thing that stops it. Lock your car doors the second you get inside. Don't wait until you've buckled your seatbelt or adjusted the mirrors. I learned this the hard way after my purse got stolen from the front seat while I was returning a shopping cart. It takes 1 second for someone to open an unlocked door. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says locked doors are one of the simplest ways to prevent thefts and worse. Keep valuables hidden too. No phones left on seats or purses visible through windows. That wallet sitting on your passenger seat? It's not just cash thereafter. It's the IDs, receipts, and personal info inside that can lead them right to you. Tell someone where you're going. Not just out with friends, but specifics. Which restaurant, what time you'll check in, when you expect to be home. There are apps that share your location in real time with people you trust. My boyfriend insisted on this after the stalking started, and it meant someone always knew if I wasn't where I should be. Change up your routes too. If you always walk home from work the same way, try different streets on alternate days. Traffickers look for patterns. They'll notice if you take the 5:15 bus every Tuesday. Be careful what you post online. That Instagram story showing your gym at 6 a.m. Now they know where you'll be tomorrow morning. The tweet complaining about working late. They've got your office location and schedule. I used to tag locations all the time until I saw my own routines written in a trafficker's notes. Now I wait until I've left a place before posting anything about it. Security cameras help too, even cheap ones. The ones my boyfriend installed caught footage of the vans circling our block, which at least gave police something to work with. Listen to that gut feeling when something seems off. That car that's been idling too long near your bus stop. The person who keeps, accidentally, bumping into you at the grocery store. I ignored those signs at first because I didn't want to seem paranoid. Bad call. If your instincts say something's wrong, get somewhere public fast. Self-defense classes help, not just for the moves, but because they teach you to stay aware of exits and vulnerabilities. I took one after the stalking started and realized how many easy targets I'd been before. Memorize emergency numbers beyond just 911. Know the non-emergency line for local police too, and keep campus security or building managers on speed dial. When that van showed up outside my apartment, I wasted precious minutes searching for contacts instead of calling for help immediately. Little things add up. Parking under streetlights, checking back seats before getting in your car, wearing shoes you can run in. After everything, I still do these automatically. It's exhausting at first, scanning parking lots, varying routines, second-guessing social media posts. But it becomes habit. The extra 10 minutes to walk a different route home is nothing compared to what could happen if someone learns your patterns. My therapist calls it situational awareness instead of paranoia. The difference is knowing real risks without letting fear control you. The system isn't perfect. Police can't monitor everyone, and crimes like trafficking often slip through cracks. That's why personal precautions matter. The FBI says home security systems deter burglaries, but they also make you a harder target for worse crimes. Those few seconds it takes to double-check locks or share your location could be what stops you from becoming another missing person statistic. I used to think safety was common sense until I saw how methodical predators really are. They study details: your gym schedule from a membership card, your address from a receipt, your route from social media check-ins. Now I treat my personal info like a credit card number, something to protect at all times. Some people argue this is overkill until they hear stories like mine. Then they check their own habits. I don't share my story to scare people, just to show how ordinary precautions can keep you off a predator's radar. Because once they've targeted you, it's much harder to shake them. Prevention isn't paranoia. It's just smart. Years after the van incident, Em still checks every lock twice before bed. It doesn't matter if she's in a new apartment or visiting friends. Her fingers automatically test each knob and window latch again after she's already locked them. She scans parking lots differently now too, noting which cars have people sitting inside and remembering which vehicles look out of place. The sound of a van door sliding open still makes her freeze, even if it's just a delivery driver. The traffickers were never caught. That's what bothers her most. The police file is technically still open, but no one's actively working it. Every few months, she checks in with the department just to ask. The answer is always the same: no new leads. Meanwhile, she scrolls through local news alerts about missing persons, wondering if they're connected. Last year, a college student vanished a few towns over from a grocery store parking lot. The surveillance footage showed a white van driving past right before she disappeared. Em's therapist says she has PTSD. The diagnosis explains why she jumps when someone knocks unexpectedly, or why certain streets make her hands shake. But knowing it's trauma doesn't make it stop. She still takes different routes to work every day, still carries pepper spray in her palm instead of her purse, still checks under her car before getting in. Some friends say she's being extreme, but they didn't see how organized those stolen notes about her routine were. They didn't hear someone testing their back door in the middle of the night. Her old apartment building got new tenants last year. Em drove by once and saw a young woman unloading groceries alone in the same spot where the van had parked. She almost rolled down her window to warn her. But what would she say? That shadows near the bushes might not be animals? That a missing hair tie could mean something? People don't believe you until it happens to them. When she talks about it now, at self-defense classes or women's groups, she makes sure to mention the police never found them. That part's important. Traffickers don't just disappear because one attempt failed. They move on to easier targets. Em keeps tabs on trafficking arrest reports in 3 surrounding states, scrolling through mugshots looking for familiar faces. Some nights she dreams she recognizes one, but she never has. The system failed her in quiet ways. Not because the police didn't try, but because traffickers know how loopholes work. Stolen license plates, burner phones, multiple people working together so no single suspect has all the evidence. What really stays with her isn't the fear. It's realizing how easy she made it for them. Posting her location online, using the same gym schedule every week, leaving her purse in the car that one time. Her boyfriend got stationed overseas and they broke up not long after. The stress changed them both. He still texts sometimes to see if she's okay, but they don't talk about that year much. It's easier to pretend it didn't shape them. Neither of them mentions how he still sleeps with a knife beside his bed either. Strangers always ask if she feels safe now. The truth is complicated. She's careful enough that she probably is safe, but that's not the same as feeling safe. Some losses don't come back. Therapy helps. but not with everything. There's no technique to unhear footsteps outside your window or unsee the exact moment a van's sliding door starts to open. She tells her story anyway, not for sympathy, but because no one warned her. If someone had told her how ordinary the danger would look, just a woman knitting in a parked car, just a missing hair tie, just a purse left alone for 30 seconds, she might have noticed sooner. Now she makes sure others know. The case is still technically open. No one's been arrested. The van could still be out there. That's the part that never ends. You don't get closure when the danger just moves elsewhere. All you get is locks to check and parking lots to scan, and the knowledge that you got lucky. Em knows exactly how close she came to disappearing. Now she keeps sharing the story, hoping it makes someone else just a little harder to take. That stolen purse nearly took more than just Em's wallet. It could have cost her everything. What seemed like a random theft turned into something much darker when police found her information organized by traffickers. These criminals operate everywhere: your grocery store parking lot, your morning commute, outside your workplace. Last year alone, over 5,000 trafficking cases were reported in the US, but most go unnoticed till it's too late. Em still checks locks twice and varies her routes, not because she's paranoid, but because she knows how close she came. Your safety starts with noticing the small things others miss. Stay alert.